value love and everything that connects them. Now listen very carefully. This Friday, pro-lifers from across Georgia are going to be coming to the Capitol to commemorate 48 years of abortion. Now I want you to think about an unintended consequence of abortion that you don't often hear people bring up. In fact, I don't remember ever hearing anybody bring it up before, except maybe once. Galatians 6:1 calls this the law of sowing and reaping. I'm a child of the baby boom, 1945 to 1965. I was born right in the middle of it. The baby boom was almost immediately followed by the baby bust in the aftermath of unrestrained legalized abortion. A decade ago, my boom generation began retiring on Social Security, depending largely on the aborted generation to sustain it. But over 60 million of that generation, some 20%, are missing from the workforce. They will never pay taxes from the grave. And each year, more boomers like me weigh into the system, expecting the generation we aborted to support them. Right now, there are about 3 workers to support every one on Social Security. By 2040, 19 years from now, that's expected to be 2 to 1. And that's also expected to be the year when the Social Security Trust Fund finally runs dry. The irony is that one reason many of those parents aborted those 60 million children was they said, we can't afford them. So what did we think was going to happen when this inevitable moment finally came? Well, there are some solutions that our legislators will talk about: lowering Social Security benefits, delaying the retirement age. But then there are others that no one is supposed to say out loud. In 1994, Oregon passed the first law in U.S. history to legalize physician-assisted suicide. Washington and Montana followed in 2008. Since 2013, Vermont, California, Colorado, D.C., Hawaii, New Jersey, and Maine all joined at an accelerating pace, and all with the noblest of intentions. But it's amazing how the lines start to become blurred once a society begins allowing suicide for old people, for handicapped, for those who cannot take care of themselves. In Oregon, where assisted suicide was legalized in 1994, Helen Berger, CEO of the American Association of People with Disabilities, says the rate of Oregon deaths attributed to a patient's reluctance to burden their family. I don't want to burden my family. And so the rate of people committing suicide because they didn't want to burden their family has risen from 13% to 40%. That reveals that the right to die option for some populations quickly becomes more like a duty to die. Richard Dorflinger with Notre Dame's public policy, he says that when a society makes suicide a choice for some people, eventually they begin to pressure them to do the right thing and kill themselves. In states that have legalized assisted suicide, most patients request the lethal drugs not due to pain, but due to reasons like loss of dignity and becoming a burden on others, attitudes that these laws actually encourage patients to have. And the solution is to care for people in a way that assures them that they are not a burden, but it's a privilege to care for them as long as God gives them life. Aren't we glad that in America we don't need to worry about a state-controlled system that decides whether your health care whether you're worth what it'll cost to keep you alive? Aren't we glad that we don't have a system like that? Could never happen here. Did you notice how those arguments about unaffordable children, choice, dignity, quality of life, those same arguments sound chillingly like those starting to be used for unaffordable parents? What happens when the boom generation hits retirement and the aborted generation can no longer sustain them? Do you think that the generation might reap what the generation sowed?